I'm Greenlycan and welcome to Diablo 4. Today we're going to be doing a deep dive on everything Diablo 4 to give you an idea of what's in the game and what you can do. We'll be covering story, gameplay and features, and we'll be covering some of the systems and other things in the game. So let's talk about it. So for those of you that don't know what Diablo 4 is, it's a long-awaited sequel to the Diablo series by Blizzard. It's an open-world action RPG game that puts you in the shoes of an adventurer that is essentially trying to save the world. The story consists of you, as an adventurer, having to go after Lilith, who's the daughter of hatred. After the introduction, the game puts you into 3 different acts. Acts 1, 2 and 3, which are playable in whatever order you want. There is no specific way to do it, and you can do it as and when you want to. Throughout the game world, when it comes to combat, there are enemies and mobs all over the place. You'll find yourself fighting while you're on your way to areas all the time. Because it's an online based game, you'll come across other players who are fighting against mobs as well. You can choose to ignore it or help them out. They also have world events that happen where you can team up with other people on the fly in order to fight against enemies to get a reward. And once you complete these events, you'll get a big chest in the middle which will open up and you'll get loads of loot. The game can be played multiplayer, so you can play it cooperatively. I've been playing with my partner and we've been going through this split screen on the Xbox Series X. So the game takes you through the story mode until the end of the game, then it kind of opens up and gives you more things to do after the story, and that's when it gets interesting. So let's talk about story. As I said, you play as an adventurer who's trying to essentially hunt down and stop Lilith, who's the daughter of hatred. So story mode puts you into missions where you help NPCs get through and do certain things to help stop Lilith as well. All of these missions come to a culmination towards the end of the game, obviously, where everything kind of links up together. But when you're doing the first missions in Acts 1, 2 and 3, they all seem disconnected, so like I said, you can do them in any order you want to, and it really doesn't matter. So the narrative's played out between missions in cutscenes and during certain sections in missions where you'll have cutscenes that will trigger due to certain events. You'll also find that there will be NPCs around that will kind of say things that will relate to the story, or whether it's the NPCs you're travelling with talking as you travel from point A to point B. I can't speak about endgame because I haven't actually completed this game yet, but as far as it is so far, the story's interesting, keeps you involved, and yeah, it's a good story basically. So the combat works more like a skill-based system. You have your skills that are available and bound to certain buttons on your controller, or obviously keyboard, it would probably be numbers. I'm not sure, haven't played it on PC. Each skill has a cooldown time and you have the ability to use these skills as and when you want to. It plays out kind of like a World of Warcraft thing, which is the kind of thing that you would expect from Blizzard, as they made it. Your abilities can be switched out at any point during the game by going into the menus and selecting different abilities. You can also refund skill points on the skill tree, which gives you the ability to change the abilities and skills you have and kind of experiment with the way that you want to build your character. You do have the ability to fully reset all your skills and start all over again, though it does cost you money, but it's not really a lot compared to what you earn in game, so it's not a problem. You also don't have to go to an NPC to do this. You just go straight to your abilities menu and you can reset everything and all the nodes from there. Once you get through to level 50, you unlock the PARAGON section, which gives you the ability to upgrade your skills more by going through different node sets and carry on through the game by upgrading yourself after you've hit level 50. Obviously each class in the game has their own skill sets and own strengths and weaknesses, so this is something that you can play through technically 5 times and play as all the different characters, or in the case of me playing with my partner, I'm currently playing as a druid and she's playing as a sorceress. Once you get through the main story of the game, you'll be introduced to other different types of events and PvP modes that are available if you want to. The game world is built up of several different regions. Each region has its own types of enemies and things that you can find in them. Each area generally scales to your level if you're on the first world tier, which I'll get into in a minute. This means that you can fight throughout the campaign and all the story stuff without having to grind to level up to keep up with the game. I personally don't like this style because I like to be able to go to harder areas, but that's where the world tier system comes into play. From the start of the game you can select your world tier, or certain cities within the game. You can go to a certain statue area and you can use the world tier selector to change the world tier to a more difficult tier. The first world tier will scale all enemies to be your level, which makes it a normal difficulty. And as you move up through different world tiers, it will increase the level of enemies and the difficulty fighting them, depending on what world tier you're on. I haven't played it yet, but I have been told that there is a hardcore mode that you can just have insta-kill, where once you die, you have to start again. So if you want to have a difficulty spike or something that gives you a real good challenge, increasing the world tier can help out, or even doing hardcore mode if you feel that you're up for it. The game has a gear system where you can select different types of weapons and upgrade over time. You can upgrade each weapon using the blacksmith, and you have to use certain materials, which means that you don't always sell all of your items. You can go to the smith and you can break down your items into materials that can be used to upgrade other items. In order to upgrade epic and legendary items, for example, you'll need to have broken down epic and legendary items so that you've got enough materials from those items in order to actually upgrade your new ones. Same goes for armor in the game. You also have a necklace and you have 2 rings which can upgrade your abilities. The necklace and rings, you'll have to go to the jeweler in order to upgrade them, and most items later on in the game will have some kind of a slot in them where you can socket a stone which will add new abilities or essentially bonuses to the weapons or armor respectively. There is a good selection of armor as well, so you can kind of go through and change the different things, and they have got a transmog mode, which means when you break down an item you unlock the transmog of that item if you haven't unlocked it, which allows you to go to the wardrobe area within the game, which you can find in various cities, in order to change the look of your character to a transmog version. This version does not change when you change your armor, it is permanent. The only way that you can really change it is to go to either the wardrobe section to change the transmog completely, or within your inventory within the game you can go to the item that you want to change back to its original look and just press a button to switch back, so you can turn transmog on and off for items in-game in the menus without having to go to somewhere specific. You can also go to the occultist where you can add aspects, which are bonuses that you unlock through doing certain dungeons and things in the game. You can add these to your weapons and armor to give yourself bonuses. You can also go to a section where you can respec your weapon things. This is a similar thing in a way of taking one of the bonuses on your weapon, you select it, you sacrifice it, and you can change to one of the selected options it gives you. Sometimes these don't give you the option you want, but other times it will add things that could be potentially useful. For example, as a druid, I had a weapon that added to fire damage, which I didn't use fire spells. It's not something I was using, I didn't have any of that as a druid. So I was able to respec that specific bonus and change it to a bonus that added strength. When it comes to the classes, you have 5 classes. You have the Barbarian, the Necromancer, the Rogue, the Sorceress, and the Druid. So as you would expect, the Barbarian is an up-close kind of in-the-action kind of character. They have the highest level of health in the game and strength, obviously. Barbarians generate Fury, which they use to use their skills. And the Barbarian has the Arsenal system, which allows them to essentially have 4 slots for 4 different weapons. This means that you can go single-handed, dual-wield, or change your weapons to different types depending on the situation on the fly. But because of the chosen skills that you have, you will automatically switch to certain weapons that you need for certain skills without having to worry about changing them separately. The Sorceress is more of a crowd control based class. They can use lightning, fire and frost spells. Lightning spells generally stun your opponents, while frost can freeze and slow them down, and fire one, they do overtime burning damage. Obviously, Sorceress is more of a ranged class. As you'd likely expect, the Sorceress has got quite low health, however they use a type of mana which regenerates over time as you fight, which means their skills are generally always available for use. The Rogue class is kind of like a hybrid class. You have the ability to use melee and ranged attacks. Using melee attacks, you can use daggers and swords, and obviously you'll be more of a sneaky kind of rogue. Or you can focus on the more ranged style with bows and crossbows, which obviously allow you to do things like use fire arrows and other skills from a distance. The rogue can also imbue their attacks with certain elemental effects or poison, which can help against certain types of enemies. The necromancer has generally companion style zombies and things that can be called, including a golem. Necromancers have essence and corpses, which are materials that you have to manage. Essence is what allows you to perform spells and regenerates passively over time, but also increases when you attack and use your basic skills. Corpses, obviously, as a necromancer you need bodies in order to summon the fallen. So I'd see necromancer as being more of an in-depth kind of class where you would have to put more thought into what you do and more thought into the way you manage things. Then of course there's the druid. The druid is a shape-shifting class. You have the ability to shape-shift into a werewolf or a werebear, as I said before. Your skills use spirit that are spent to use the skills, which only regenerates when you hit your opponents with skills or attacks. The druid has access to earth spells, storm spells like lightning, and wind. I run a hybrid where I'm using storm spells and wind spells alongside shapeshifting into a werewolf in order to attack the opponents. Some of the werewolf skills have the ability to poison opponents as well, so you can do damage over time. All in all, I can definitely say that I recommend this game. If you're a fan of the World of Warcraft games, or you're a fan of the previous Diablo games, then I can definitely recommend this for you. But I want to know what you think, so get down in the comments, let me know what you think, let me know if I've been helpful at all. Thank you for watching, I've been Greenlycan, like and subscribe, and I will see you in the next one.